What's in the bag? A shark or something?
Welcome everybody to the newest episode of Amateur Theory. We got a special episode for you tonight because it's a dual episode. It's two movies. We're talking about the 1970 73 movie The Wicker Man, as well as the 2006 remake, which you might have seen. If you haven't seen it, you might have seen one of the memes about it. You know, about the bees.
Not the bees! Ah!
But we watched them both, and so we're gonna compare them.
Okay. When you saw, because you saw the original Wicker Man first, right? Had
Did
you
you
ever
also watch it in that order?
Yeah, I watched the original first, and then I watched the remake.
Okay.
Had you heard of the original before you saw it, or was it just something that you saw on the streaming service and went, "Oh, that looks interesting"?
Kind of both, because I had heard the name Wicker Man, but I knew nothing about it. So I didn't know about its claimed status and its anything about the plot. I just had heard the name Wicker Man before, and I recognized it, and so I watched it. And I mean, this might foreshadow some of the later conversation, but I really liked the original. I thought the original was great.
Yeah, great movie. So yeah, I'm just want to get down. Like, you knew nothing about the movie pretty much before you saw it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did not.
Yeah.
And it really surprised me. This was not what I expected out of this movie. Is what we got. It was a very, very strange movie, but strange in a very good way.
Yeah.
It's the only horror musical I think I've ever seen in my life. But it worked out pretty well. I liked how they did it.
And it plays it straight too. It's not like a horror musical in a comedy sense, which if you hear like horror musical, I imagine you'll probably think comedy automatically, but this plays it pretty much straight.
Yeah, actually, you don't really think about how creepy that would be in real life. That if everyone started singing in song and did these choreographed dances around you, and you weren't part of the whatever was going on, that would be a very strange thing, right? If that was to happen in real life, it would be strange, and it's never addressed in any musical except for this one. This one, we have a straight man who is just watching this, and it's kind of creepy, and it totally works. It actually the musical adds to the horror element, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, we feel a sense of his disorientation. Okay, I want to address this because I kind of just looked up quickly to see other people's commentary on the film online, and this is classified as a horror film, but it's not what you would think of when you think of the words horror film, because it's not.
It's
scary,
not a slasher, and it's not particularly scary. It's not like a psychological. I guess, would you count this as psychological horror? Is that the right? I like horror musical, as far as the genre name.
I could see you leaning in either direction. And this is the thing: the film isn't scary, or isn't not scary because the filmmaking fails to live up to that. The movie doesn't really try to scare you until maybe
there's
towards
no jump
the very
scares.
end.
There's no jump scares or anything like that you'd expect. But it does, like I said, I think.
Yeah, the film's set all out in the open, during this while it's sunny usually.
Right.
There's no
and there's no supernatural.
Right?
Yeah, it's all just but I think it does a good job of making you empathize with the lead as he feels kind of creeped out, and because of the otherness of the people, there is kind of a creepy, not necessarily scary, but creepy kind of vibe to the movie the whole way through, which is why I think horror is not a bad term for it either. I think it still makes sense to call it a horror movie, even if it's not scary in the way that a movie like The Ring or Sinister or something like that is.
Yeah, totally. Okay, well, so a brief synopsis of the plot. We have a police officer who is very Christian. He to like the nth degree, like he's saving himself for marriage, like does like the whole 9 yards, kind of. Not like, I guess, fundamentalist, but just very.
Well, I think he's Catholic. I think because he's Scottish. And I think it's probably a fair assumption to make that he is either that or Presbyterian, you'd imagine. But yes, he's very, very devout. Like not fundamentalist. I think fundamentalist is more of an American thing. But
devout's a good word. Very devout.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he gets sent to an island, Summer Isle, on police business because there's a girl missing. Rowan Morrison, a missing girl. Right. And he gets to the island and starts, asking around looking for this girl and finds that no one seems to know her. B, no one seems to care. When people do recognize that name, they're talking about a bunny, like a hare, instead of a person. So weird things afoot on the island.
And I guess let's bring in the remake, because I think it's interesting because these are essentially the same movie. So instead of talking about one movie its entirety and one movie, we can talk about each step as they were in the differences. So in the 2006 Nicolas Cage version, the beginning of the movie is a little bit different because it doesn't cut straight to the action. It starts with Nick Cage experiencing loss. Like this child dies in a car accident, and you see it affects him very deeply. And then he's hit up by an ex who wants him to save another child.
Yeah, well, the ex lives on the island, and in this remake, it's her daughter. Her daughter's the girl that's gone missing, and so she asks him to come over to the island and help find the missing child.
But that gives it's motivation, right? The motivation is that he has experienced a small girl dying in front of him, so he cares very, very deeply about this, and also it's his ex's, so that there's something there too.
I guess.
I think it was unnecessary to add all of this context to like give motivation to the character. So I saw why they did it, but just you're a police officer investigating a missing child, I think was enough. You didn't need to add all this extra stuff. It honestly was kind of boring.
No,
none of it. Yeah, it was.
Well, first of all, I usually don't like saying this word because I'm just one of those guys that I like to think that I see the good in everything. I don't know, some dumb hippie bullshit like that. I might hate the remake. I don't know if I was feeling such strong emotions of antipathy while I was watching it, but afterwards, just thinking about it, I was feeling like vitriol, like kind of bubbling up.
Because I think a lot of people would consider this the so bad it's good category, in that there's like funny moments to be had. And I actually did laugh once or twice in this movie, but it's surrounded by these long stretches of just boring TV or boring bits. And so the good parts do not shine bright enough to make the movie worth watching.
Yeah.
Honestly, and I did this after I watched the movie, just as kind of a refresher, is I just go on YouTube and just worst scenes of The Wicker Man, and it cuts it down to 5 minutes of like all the funny bits, and that's what there is. There's about 5 minutes of funny bits.
Yeah.
There's the bees scene. He like punches a guy in a bear costume. It looks ridiculous.
He wears a bear costume and punches a woman in the face.
And like he does some like karate kick to this little girl at one point. There's moments of like that are just funny, but you can get away with all the terrible bits of the movie and just watch the YouTube clip and get
you can just watch a compilation.
Right, and that's actually the way I would suggest enjoying anything that came out of this that was like enjoyable can be boiled down to 5 minutes and just watch it on YouTube. That's all you need.
No, this remake, and I think a lot of my disdain comes from I just watched it pretty much after the original. And I really liked the original. And then this remake, I guess it's a remake, but they don't try to do enough different. There's literal entire lines of dialogue lifted from the original, shots and scenes that are just supposed to mimic moments from the original film, and it's just done.
But they
worse.
Do make changes, and the changes are all for the worst. So let me talk about some of the issues I had right off the bat. One of the things that makes the original cool, at the very beginning, it says, "Thank you for the people of such and such island," I don't remember their exact name, "for letting us use elements of your religion for this movie." So there is I'll call it a cult, right? But I mean, this is based on a real religion, which makes it seem believable. So all the people there are all you can tell they're wrapped in to this kind of cult. They're all happy to be there and happy to participate.
Well, it's just basically like a form of paganism. It's their own religion.
Exactly. I only call it a cult because it's more applicable to the remake for sure.
Yeah,
where that's definitely a cult. In
the original version of the film, I could see why someone would enjoy being a part of that community.
Mm-hmm.
Their ways are, I guess, different from what most people would consider normal. Basically, everyone's just horny.
There's an element of that, and then the fact
that's a real simplification. But the people on the island, they're invested in their community. They're not creepy. They're just different. They're having fun. They're singing songs, enjoying their festivities. So I like that element because you can actually see yourself at times not siding with the people of the island, but understanding them.
Yeah. And then compare that to the remake, where they turned what was a cool pagan thing into a feminist plot, right? It's the whole premise is that the cult leader just hates men, I guess, and wants to remove them from society. There's a moment where the girl, the police officer talking about going away, and she's take me with you, saying that they're not happy in this society, it's actually bad. And the fact that he has a relationship with one of the cult members, the ex, which comes off as fairly genuine. So and then here the spoilers, as all our podcasts will go. When she betrays him at the end, because it's turned out that in both movies, the whole setup of having the police officer come to look for the child is actually just a setup to lure him to the island. And,
as a human sacrifice.
Right, so that he could be sacrificed, even though it's implied that the
missing girl is going to be the human sacrifice. Kind of a switch and bait and switch.
Step away from the bike.
So because he has some connection, it makes it so that what was really made the original scary was that the people felt so other to the main character. They were not connected to his world. This is a totally different place. And all the people seem crazy. Crazy to the person, which is why the investigation goes nowhere. When people give him unsatisfactory answers about his questioning, it's believable because it's, these people are kind of loony. And so, you wouldn't expect a straight answer. And that also adds to the creepiness. In the remake, none of the people seem crazy. They just seem diabolical or with bad intent. So every single the teacher is a great example. In both versions, he talks to a teacher who is clearly lying to him. In the original, again, because she seems kind of off, she gives all these unsatisfactory answers, but she gives them with a smile and kind of oh, you just don't understand, this and that. And so even though the police officer leaves frustrated, the scene seems, you don't expect the police officer to escalate things, right? But in the remake, the teacher seems just suspicious as hell, as everybody does. Everybody just seems unbelievably suspicious. And the police officer, what I was kept on thinking is, well, why wouldn't you just call for backup. This is like a shut and done case. It seems super obvious that they're kidnapping this girl, whereas in the original it's implied, but there's enough plausible deniability to kind of understand why you'd keep investigating and not just like, okay, we've solved the case, let's go escalate things. And they give some reason for why he doesn't ask for backup. He's a California cop in a place would be the Washington district or something. It's all like really paper thin. I don't see why he thought it was a good idea to. I guess maybe he had a gun, so he felt like he could get away with stuff. I don't know. But what it did is, by making the people less other, by making them act more what we would consider rational, even though they're doing it for irrational reasons, like this feminist cult again just seemed ridiculous. It sounded really stupid. But plausibly, they acted like a suspicious person would instead of a cult person would. And it made all of the scenes worse. So again, they had like line for line, it was exactly the same, except for that the demeanor changed because all the people are very antagonistic to the police officer now, like extremely antagonistic, instead of kind of like join our cults, like, that even though that on its face, you'd think that the smiling person is less scary because it mismatches. It's not what you'd expect from these people who are lying. It actually makes it less creepy that they're acting more predictably.
Yeah, like the cult whatever in the original film, they like, if I wasn't like there as a policeman like looking for someone, I think they were just like just people like isolated. Maybe that's how they act, but I like don't get a sense of like dread or like, for lack of a better word, evil from them. Just odd. But then when it becomes evil, it's like a twist, and it's a satisfying. No, yeah, it's more of a shock then. There's some actually heightening of the tension, whereas in the remake, like they just, like you said, act suspicious from the beginning, and they're antagonistic. They're like.
And I guess this surprise in the remake is supposed to be the X, because the X is the only person that seems like she's on the police officer's side the whole time. And she does this by just feigning confusion for anything that's like more suspicious, but being adamant that she's against. She keeps on saying how much the fellow cult people don't like her because she's a free spirit, but it refuses to give too much explanation about that. She, I guess, tried to leave once. But she really avoids answering the police officer's questions. But she'll just say, like, I don't know about everything. And so when it comes off that, at the end she betrayed him, if I hadn't seen the movie, that actually might have surprised me. But I think the best twists are ones where, it should be surprising, but it should also, with hindsight, you could be like, oh, I can't believe I didn't see it. Right, like now that it's been explained, it all makes sense. Whereas which is what there was in the original, when they betray him, it's kind of like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. But now their actions make sense in that context. All these things that didn't make sense before. It's explanatory. In the remake, her betraying him wasn't like that. She was just a really damn good actor about pretending to be on his side, and now she's, actually, I'm not on your side. It's like, oh, well, okay. Like, I don't know if I'm explaining this very correctly. Do you follow what I'm saying? In terms of it being satisfying twist ending compared to a not satisfying twist ending?
Yeah, no, I think I get you. I mean, just for me personally, like, I just watched the original. So I was watching this, I could see, like, the twist ending in this one, like, coming from a mile away. It's like, oh, well, she's obviously just feigning this whole time.
Right.
And I think that's probably the biggest reason why I disliked the remake so much. It was probably because I just watched the original, and the original is a compelling and unique movie, and with like just lots of interesting elements. Like, for example, like the songs and musical parts.
The soundtrack was cool.
And the remake's just all of that, or some of that, but just like done worse. Like, it's just a crappier version of it. Like, there's no reason for this movie to exist.
Well, so that's the question then. Would you have enjoyed this movie if it wasn't for the original? Because I don't think I would have. I think it still would have.
No, it's boring as shit.
Yeah.
It's badly acted. Like, the screenplay is not engaging. Like, there's the funny parts, which happen, like, in the last half hour of the film. And before that, like, you want to turn the film off. It's so damn boring. And this is the thing. Maybe this got my gonads in a twist, too. The version I saw didn't have the not the bees scene in it, because apparently there's two fucking different versions of this movie, and the one I saw did not have what I came to the movie for.
Yeah. So we saw the same version. I had to look up the bee scene on YouTube. I didn't look in. I thought I just missed it, but you telling me it wasn't in there, it makes sense, because I was also looking for that scene and it didn't happen, and I was like, what? But
I was waiting for him, and then I knew I got to a point in the movie where, like, obviously if it happened, it would have happened by now. I think I actually shut the movie off for a second. I was like, fuck this, I'm done. And then, like, I went online, I watched the B scene on YouTube, placated myself somewhat, and then thought, yeah, I've only got like 5 minutes left in this movie. I'll finish it. Then I finished it and was just like, this was awful.
So I'm going to take a moment here to talk about Nick Cage, because I am not a fan of his ever. I think even the good movies he's in, like National Treasure, are good despite him, not because of him. And my main criticism here, he's got the, is it Kirsten or Kristen Stewart?
Kristen Stewart?
Twilight. Kristen Stewart. He's got the Kristen Stewart problem, where I just don't think he can emote well. Like his angry, his happy, his everything. Like, he has two modes. There's just normal Nick Cage, and there's yelling Nick Cage. That's like the two things he can do. And I find that really boring acting. And that was in spades in this movie. He like underacted the entire time. Again, there was points where he yelled, and points when he didn't yell. But that was
when he yelled, that's when it got
range.
kind of funny, got interesting.
When
he's like calling the classroom like liars, like, you're all filthy little liars.
Yeah, no, that most of the comedy comes from Cage.
Yeah.
Like, if Cage was not in this movie, it wouldn't even be worthy of, being a meme. Like, it would just be totally forgettable. So I guess in that respect, he raised the movie up from something that was boring to a joke, I guess. But I don't think he's a good actor, and this is certainly not a showcase of his best acting chops, even for him, which I never really think he's good. This is particularly bad.
I don't think he even tried in this movie. I'm guessing he saw the script and was like, okay, this is what this is. Like, I'll just not give a fuck and then ham it up when I need to.
Yeah, but he's just not very good at hamming it up, I don't think. Like, there's some actors that when they ham it up, it's entertaining. Oh, it's entertaining in those moments. But for all the parts where he's not yelling and he's just speaking.
Oh, he's not.
It's just okay.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he cares at all. Which, if I were him, I wouldn't either. If I was in this movie.
Yeah, and then I guess we should mention that there basically is no music in the remake. And the music is one of the things that set the first one apart, and it was so cool about it. The second one just has a very typical horror movie score.
Yeah, the original has, I think, a mix of songs that were written for the film, and then some like traditional folk songs with maybe some of the lyrics rewritten. But they're basically just all these like old folk tunes with like highly suggestive lyrics, and that are actually like pretty damn catchy. It's engaging music. I enjoyed it. And I think it gives the original movie like part of that unique like charm and flavor to it. And
yeah, like I said, I've never seen a movie like this. I've never seen a horror musical, but that's what this is, and I came out really enjoying it. I think most people could probably appreciate it. I would think. I mean, this is a very critically acclaimed movie.
Yeah, like this is considered like one of the probably like greatest horror films of all time. That yada yada yada.
Yeah.
But I can see, like, it's easy to see why people love this movie.
I will say now, if you do want to see a more modern version of the Wicker Man, watch Midsummer.
I actually
Which,
just watched that this past
yeah,
week.
that's a good movie, and that is, I think, much closer a successor to the original than the remake is. And
Oh, yeah, totally.
Midsummer is not a horror musical. It is a very scary movie. It is. It doesn't just copy the plot, but the connection is that it's based on kind of this pagan group engaging in sacrifice. That's all I'll say. But in that respect, is actually closer to the original than the remake, which is about a feminist plot to destroy men or something. So
I think Midsummer actually might also be part of the reason why I hated the Wicker Man remake more, because I watched the original movie, then I actually watched Midsummer just because that seemed like a more interesting film. So I watched like two like pretty good horror movies back to back, and then I had to sit through the 2006 remake of Wicker Man.
Yeah, and like I said, the original, while not overtly scary, it is kind of like creepy in what you'd want in a horror movie. The remake, they try to make it scary by making
There's no tension or scares or
most of the horror elements comes from the fact of two people talking in unison. That's like as scary as it gets. There's like two old ladies who talk in unison and two girls that talk in unison.
And it's so dumb and contrived.
And the bees are scary because the main character is allergic to bees. And there's a famous bee scene, but there's actually bees show up multiple times in this movie as the scare.
Yeah.
Multiple times. Never effectively.
Yeah, because like I guess honey is a big export of theirs. Yeah. The bees play somewhat of a critical part in this film. Not that that makes it any better. Why.
It like on paper, I could see you easily replacing the crop with being honey instead of whatever the crop is in the original. It's not really specified, but for whatever reason, you can't make bees scary. I mean, they are kind of scary in real life. You see a bee worried you might get stung, but on film, it just doesn't work as a horror device. It just does not. Because they have a moment where there's like a woman covered in bees. Right, he opens a door and there's just a woman covered in bees, and that's supposed to be scary, but it's not. And then there's the moment where he like walks through the bee field the first time, and you could tell he's scared because again he's allergic.
Well, he's like running and he's tripping over beehives. It's funny, not scary.
Right, but it just doesn't work. It just whatever they were going for with that just doesn't work at all. So all of the attempted horror is not scary at all. It just falls flat. It's not creepy. It's not unsettling. It's just, again, there's some of it is humorous. Yeah, and then like the bear suit is so ridiculous. It's because he wears a suit in the original too, but the suit is very like, what's the word? It looks like, and it probably was inspired by a real pagan ritual costume.
Yeah. Well, it's also set up too because he's reading about the festival. And saying like, oh, people dress up is this and this, and there's other characters also dressed up in like silly ways. It fits. It's set up. Like,
yeah, they didn't even explain the bear costume. I just knew because of the original, but if I hadn't seen that, it would have been so random for him to just wear.
Because in the remake, I think some women are talking, and one of them's like, "You're gonna be the bear, right?" And she's like, "Yep." And then the women leave, and while she's going to get dressed in the bear costume, like Nick Cage shows up and just beats her up and steals the costume.
I think it also suffered from the fact that they basically made this, it's almost more of an action movie than a horror movie, the remake, because like he does a lot of like punching and he has a gun and there's like a whole he towards the end it is kind of an action film. Like he's beating up mostly, I mean it is all women because it's again feminist cult, but which makes it really like not very.
I'm sorry, but it makes it hilarious.
he's literally beating up teenage girls in this movie, and it's supposed to be heroic, but it doesn't come off as heroic at all. It's and I guess I have to thank them for having those scenes because it made it worth watching. if small parts that make this worth watching, which is the funny bits, the action scenes are the funny bits largely. So that, I guess in that sense it's good. But yeah,
it is a garbage film. And I admit I probably would have liked it better had I just watched it in a vacuum and watched the version that kept the bees scene in it. But
yeah. But even then, it's boring. I think both of us agree that we would recommend watching the YouTube clips before the movie. And once you've seen the YouTube clips, you no longer have any reason to see the movie.
Do not watch the 2000 remake. I think it is imperative that you don't. I think this is a question of moral character. You are a better person if you choose not to watch the entire 2006 remake.
But do watch the original.
Absolutely watch the original. Yes.
It has a cool movie. It's got Christopher Lee. I'm so bad with actor names.
Yeah, Christopher Lee in what he said, I think, his favorite
his
role.
His best role. Yeah. He said it was his best role.
Like,
it is cool. He's he's way more compelling than the cult leader of the remake, who again just seems like a spiteful, the spiteful feminists. I don't know what
and just copying lines from the original and not like saying them like in an engaging way, like just not acting as well. Like it's just a dumbed down worse version of it. So why is it even there?
I guess that's let's, before we end, because it's always interesting to bring up, because you seem to really, really dislike this movie. Just kind of we're on a journey here to find the worst movie. So far, the worst movie has remained The Last Airbender. That's been the worst one we've seen on this podcast. How does this hold up to you? I would say that Last Airbender is still worse for me, but you seem to really, really hate this one.
Yeah. I guess this is the thing. I just watched the 2006 remake, so it's more like clear in my mind. Like I can just remember the vitriol that I kind of felt. Where it's been a while now with The Last Airbender, and time does soften pain.
That's true.
The Last Airbender is a worse made movie. Like, just
so it's yet to be beat.
Yeah, and man, I don't know. Like, because The Last Airbender is truly god awful. But the fact that it is like that god awful almost maybe gives it like a point of like praise, because like the Wicker Man 2006 remake isn't like the worst movie ever, but just the fact that it just doesn't need to be there, like it's just a worse version of something else that already exists in that form. Like I realize The Last Airbender is an adaptation of a TV series, but
at least it took a cartoon TV series into live action. There's some reason for its existence.
A little different. Whereas, like, there is already a Wicker Man movie, and like, they just made them like the same thing but just worse, and not in a very like compelling way. Like, there's funny scenes in it, but there's not that many. You can just watch them all in a 5-minute YouTube clip. So, trying to look at this like as most objectively as I can. The Last Airbender is a worse movie, but The Wicker Man hurt me more.
I think that's a good way to put it. I'll take that. Okay. Is there I think I've said everything that I mostly wanted to say about this one. Do you have any final thoughts?
Not really. Or I'd just like to add, since we brought it up, very briefly, like I said, I watched Midsummer right after I watched the original Wicker Man. And if you watch the original Wicker Man and you want a more updated or kind of more modern sort of take on the thing, then watch Midsummer instead. Because Midsummer is actually a different movie, actually well made, decent acting,
but there are
Well,
parallels. Like, it is a different movie.
cinematography,
But
sound
you can
design.
see. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was probably inspired by Wicker Man, if I had to take a guess.
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. But it's still like its own thing.
Mm.
So yeah, watch Midsummer instead of the 2006 remake. Like,
Yeah, I can second that. I love Midsummer. It's an extremely good movie. Very, very good movie. I might have even liked it better than the original Wicker Man, actually.
me too, actually.
As much as I liked the original Wicker Man.
Yeah.
But okay, we'll leave it with that. If you're listening to us on YouTube, give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a follow. If you are listening to us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Radio Public, lots of streaming services. It's if you're watching the YouTube video, it's in the description below. Until next time.
Until next time.